Welcome friends, and today we will talk about the concept of the type safe. Okay, we will talk about the type safe configuration property. Actually, what I can say, this is basically a way of getting ridding of at the rate value property. Why? Because whenever we use this annotation, it is the value annotations, we need to write this value annotation with each of your object, you can say with each of your state, okay, with the each of your instance variable. So that is something like, and we know that you can access this value, it can be default here, or you can create the properties file, that is an application.properties or application.yml file, and then you can use this part of a particular syntax, and then you can access it. So this is something like when your application grow, it will become more tedious and it will become more cumbersome. Specifically, when you are working with the multiple properties for your data, that is basically the hierarchical in nature. So there is a way by which you didn't need to write this at the rate the value at the value properties, and this is particularly is known with the name of this concept, and this is known with the annotation, and that annotation name is at the rate configuration properties. Well, and here you can supply the any prefix, that means which properties that you want to access. So if we go in a little bit more detail about this, okay, if we go in a little bit more detail about this, if you can see in our last application where we are having this example and we are using it here, the properties, okay, that means we are using out here at the at value annotation. So as you can see, we are using this value, we are using this particular value again and again. Okay, so this will become very means tedious to do this. So as a result, there is also one concept that what exactly I'm going to explain, which is known with the name of the configuration properties. So here let us start, and how we can do this means this is very pretty simple to do this. What you can do, you can create a class, okay, and inside that class you can declare all your properties. For example, let's do this concept, and here I will, this is also known with the name of type safe configuration properties, and let's say I will create one class and I will name this class with my properties. So here I'm going to declare all my properties. All right. So this is the class, okay, and let me try to give some values. Let's say I'm creating an application where I'm going to implement the remote address. I need to implement the security. I need to implement the username, password, and rules. So what I can do, first thing, you can just create your simple Pojo class. Let's say whether it my server is enabled or not. So I will use here boolean enable. Okay, so this is by default. If you want to give this value, it's okay. If you are not going to give this value, by default it will become false. And let's say I will create a, so I will create here a my inet address, okay, like this, and let's say its name is remote address. And let me create one more, and let me create a inner static class, and I will show you how you can access this one also. I will name it private static class security. So here, okay, this one, and here I will declare it, let's say private final security, and here I will create an object. Okay, I will create an object. Let's say security, a particular phone call, I need to cancel it, not an issue. Security. And then what I will do, so these are three, okay, means the state that I'm defining out here, or you can also say these are the three properties that I want to be have a default values by using the concept of annotation configuration properties. And here what we can do now inside the security, what I can take here, let's say what we require in security, I need a username. Okay, I need a password, and let me define the rules, what kind of rules that we can have in our application. And it will be array list like this, and I will give it a string, and we can have new array list like this one. And now let me define a map also. Okay, so for example, I can define a map for the particular name and the rules defines to it. So I will give a hash map. Okay, we will take a key, and let's say special rules, and this is going to be your hash map like this. Now what we can do, definitely we need to create the getter and setter. So what I will do, I will come here. Yeah, this is something need to be important here. When you use this type of concept, that is the configuration property concept, you need to make sure you are creating all the getter and setter. All right. So in case of a value annotation, you didn't need to do this. If you want to do this, that's okay. If you didn't, that will be also the okay. But this is something that you need to take carry on. And we know that when the application grow, there are a lot of getter and setter method. What we can do in the later chapters and later sessions, we will talk about the Lombok, and it will use how to get rid of the getter and setter. Here we are getting rid of how to remove all the values annotations, and in the next we will try to I will try to show you how to get rid of getter and setter also. But let's concentrate on here. And here what I will do, I will create a getter and setter like this. Okay, and for this one also I'm going to create the getter and setter. Okay, now we have a getter and setter for security class and everything. The point to be remember, we are having these three properties, and we didn't want to use the value annotation. Pretty simple. What you can do out here, first thing, you need to use a very simple annotation. That name is configuration properties. And here either you can use something like this, or if you are using the hierarchical way, for example, here in the I will go in the resource, and what I will do, I will make a right click, and because a lot of developers use the YAML file, so I will use the syntax of the YAML file. Okay, so here what we can do, we can create a hierarchy inside which we will have these enable remote security properties, and then we will also going to have these type of properties that can be available. So pretty simple here. I will create a hierarchy that says property. Okay, so inside the property, let's see how we can do this. See, this is the one like this, and here what I can do, see, the first one is the properties. I will copy this property, and inside the properties I'm going to create these properties. So the first one here like this, colon, enter, space. So the indentation is very much important when you're writing the YAML file. So here what we can do, now we have an enable. Okay, if you want to write it, you can write it. By default it is false, so I'm not going to use it. The second one, I will use the remote address. I will copy this one. Oh, so this is something like to copy as it is. Okay, There are some rules, means you can also use some other ways, but I refer you to use the same property names so you didn't get confused. So I say my remote address. Okay, here you can just something like create a space, and let's say 192.168.1.1, something like a remote address that we are having. And second one, what we need a security, and we know that inside security it's a public static class, and here inside we need to define some more. So what we can do, this is the security, or you can copy as it is like this. We'll come back here like this, and now see, like, now the first one is the username here. See out here. Now you can see we are not trying to use, we're not using any kind of value annotation. This will fine. Okay. It's all about you, which approach you want. If you want to go with the value annotation, you can go with the value annotation. If you want to go with the configuration property, you can go with the configuration property. And let's say the username is like this. And the second was a password. I will give a password, a default password. If you want to give it, otherwise when you run it, it will give you a null value. We know that. And then we need to define the roles, and not to we need to note this is a array list. So how you can define an array list? I will use a roles. I think spelling is correct. The roles, and here space. Now I can define the role with the dash. This is how you can use the list. Let's say the first one is the user, and second one is the admin. I will go back, and the last one is a map. So last one is the special rule hash map. I will copy this one and come back here again like this. So this is a map here, space. Now we can define the rules. So I will use here, let's say for the admin here, admin will be Girish. All right. And I will use a user. Let's say the user is Ashish. So see, you can see it's pretty simple to do all this kind of task, and how, I mean, easily you are get rid of the annotations concept. Okay. And it's something like it will give you a feel that you are just typing the plain all means Pojo classes. Okay. And everything, all that everything will take care with this configuration properties. But point to be noted here, if you look at carefully, there is a yellow line coming here. So what we can do, say, when using the configuration properties, it is recommended to add Spring Boot configuration processor to your class path. So we haven't added this. So as per the recommendation, we can add this Spring Boot processor to pom.xml. So here you can check it out. See, this processor is not yet been added. Okay, here in pom.xml, you can check it out. No processor, something like the processor has been added. So what we can do, I can just come back here, and now I can edit. So you can see it will update the Maven. It will take a little bit of time. Okay. Now, if you can check out here, something is added here, that is the processor. Okay. Now that we have done 70% of work, and now what we need to do to make it enable, we need to tell to, you can say, you can tell to your component class, or you can tell directly in your application somewhere here that this is the property class that we were using. So next thing that come here, you need to use @enable configuration properties, and here tell in which class your properties has been written. So I will use my properties, yeah, and dot class. So this is something that you need to do. Now to show this, what I can do, I can create a very simple component. You can use REST controller, whatever you want. So I will say my component, right? And since this is a component, so here what I can do out here, I can just give it a component. All right. And here I will define this property class. How? Let's say private I can use here in this way. You can use something like the private. You can use final. Okay. And here I will use my properties. Okay. And my properties, I will give it a name, properties, like this. And now because it's a final, we need to initialize it. Okay, how we can do this? We can you can use the shortcut Shift Alt S. So here it will give you this hint, and here what we will do, we will create a constructor using the field like this. So this will be removed, and we need to auto void it. Okay, so what I will do, I will auto void it, auto void. All right. So this is what we can check it out inside here. So let me show you the output by showing the system dot out dot println. Okay, and here we will show this properties. Let's say this dot properties dot get. You can see the remote address. So you are having the remote address, but what about the others? We are also having, yeah, get remote address. So I will use here get remote address. So to make it more visible, I will type here okay. In the similar way, what you can do, we can get the other values, or you can use other values as per your application. So this is how you can use the configuration properties, println, and here we will use this dot properties dot get security, and inside security we are having the get username. Okay, and println. So what is giving? Change the visibility. Okay, because it's not public here. Okay, so it's a static. I will just change it. Let's see whether it is working. Okay, we need to change the visibility. Now it will work. And this one is your, I will give, this one is your username. In the same way, we can take password and other arrays. So we will take a password, and you can use the get password. In the same way, you can use get wait a minute, get security dot get username, get roles. So this is the array list. So get roles, I will use the toString, so it will show you the roles. And the last one here, we can use dot get special rule hash map. I will also use toString, so it will show you the special rules or special privilege. So very simple. If you have noticed out here, we are having these properties. Okay, and here we are not using the value and annotation. We are just using the getter and setter. Later on, if you want to use Lombok project, there you can get rid of this getter and setter also. So we will talk in upcoming chapters. And what we have done, you can see this is the property, and we have defined here the properties, and with all this state, and you can see these properties has been defined here. Okay, with this identifier, the same identifier I've used. Now what we can do, let me try to run it. So for this purpose, I will go to the type safe application, means the main application, and make sure that it is enabled configuration properties and which properties files that you want to access. Now what I can do, I will try to run this, and we will check it out whether it's working or not. See, it's working fine. So this is how you can use the configuration property. Two annotations are needed here. The first one is pretty simple. You know that the first one is pretty simple that we use. The first one is, wait a minute. The first one that we basically use is @ configuration properties, and inside here we pass that particular property. Okay, you can see the parent one, and don't forget to use enable configuration properties. And here you need to type that property class, and in our case it is my properties.class. Okay, so I hope you like this tutorial, and my suggestion, my friends, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and please press the notification bell to get more these type of video. Thanks for watching it, and have a nice day.